Hey guys, welcome to today's show. What we're going to do today is an AA style recovery meeting where we're going to talk about a story from Terry, and we're going to discuss the story and how it helps us get and stay sober. So this is going to be a good one. We're going to kind of pattern after AA meetings, online AA meetings, and all different things like that. So I hope you're ready. If you are, let us know in the comments. And Terry, if you want to take it away and share your story, we're listening.
Okay, here we go. Well, welcome everyone, and yeah, yeah, AA style meetings. There's first. Let me just discuss real quick what different type of AA style meetings are. There's speaker meetings, there's discussion meetings, there's men's meetings, there's step study meetings, and there's meetings that talk about certain books like Living Sober and things like that. Anyways, this is more of a speaker meeting, and generally, what a speaker does, they get a speaker. They usually speak for about 20 minutes. I'm going to make it much shorter than that. I will give you the abridged version, and they talk about their experience, strength, and hope in recovery, and their experiences generally what happened, what made the maybe not what made them an alcoholic, but what was their journey into becoming an alcoholic. And for me, I had my first drink when I was probably 11 years old at a party my older brother had because parents were out of town and that sort of thing. And I hear a lot of times people talk about that first drink, I just loved it. It was the answer for me. And for me, it was, I don't know, everybody else did it. And that was me. I did it because everyone else was doing it. I had a beer or two. I don't even remember. Probably smoked a cigarette too, things like that. But I really didn't drink too much after that, a little bit here and there, until maybe high school. And I went to a public high school, and they had after school kegs. They had parties all over the place, and the at mom was working upbringing, mom, dad, brother, dog, cat, that sort of thing, middle class neighborhood. Never really got into too much trouble, no big trauma. Typical family. And when I say a typical family, I mean a typical family with problems, because I think a typical family is a family with problems. But there wasn't anything huge that I could really point my finger at. As I guess maybe we were not the huggy feely type of family. Maybe that's about it. But church going, that sort of thing. And yeah, so high school started partying a little more. Then came college. I joined a fraternity. We were the biggest fraternity on the campus I was at. There was a Wednesday party every week. There was weekend parties every week. We had a beer vending machine. I mean, the alcohol was everywhere, and I drank pretty heavily during that. In fact, my grades in the beginning were really bad until I figured it out and started to bring them back up. And I left college and followed a woman down to California and started a career being a chef. And down I was living in the wine country, so you start drinking wine. Of course, you got to learn how to pair your food with wine and things like that. And that was kind of what I did. I also did some other activities. I did martial arts. I rode my bicycle a lot. We do lots of activities together. What I mean, my wife and I, and friends that we had gotten, and once again, lots of partying. And was I drinking alcoholically at that point? I don't know. You know, you could ask some definition from a doctor or something. They'd probably say heavy drinker. I think they say moderate drinking is 1 to 2 drinks a day for a man, and I was pretty much probably above that. Nothing terrible, but above that's a little bit. And that was most. And of course, I'd have my times where the drink 6, 8, whatever drinks. Going to the wine country or having a party at my house. We were very social, and that's kind of the way it went. Did that for a couple decades, really, and then after a couple of decades, things, I started to kind of need more. I didn't realize it, didn't think about it, nothing like that, but the parties started happening more. I found that I would have a pre-drink, pre-party drink. I'd want some more after the parties, things like that. And the drinking would start to escalate a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And eventually, what happened was I was starting to hide my drinks. I didn't want anybody to really realize how much I was drinking. I realized I'm kind of drinking heavily. I better start hiding it. And that's what I did. I started to hide it. And, you know, I'm sure any of you that have alcohol problems or know all of the hiding tricks and all that, and I did them all. And realized, after a while of doing this, I started to realize maybe I better start cutting back. And that's another thing that I think many of us go through is we think we have to cut back, and we start trying to figure out different ways. I'm not going to drink during the day. I'm not going to drink during the week. I'm only going to drink when I go to a party. I'm not going to drink when I go to a party. You just try all these different things, but I would always fail. I'd always want that more, and eventually I slowly started to need more and more alcohol. And eventually, I started to do things like buy it separately with cash, so there's no record, things like that. Hiding it as much as possible, and and things like that. And I still was not getting too many consequences until I did have consequences. And there were consequences. There were legal consequences. There were relationship consequences, and they were pretty bad. And um, what would I do? What was my answer for that? My answer was to not get caught. And I think that's what a lot of us do is we just try not to get caught, but we want to keep drinking. We like that feeling. That was me. I loved the feeling that it gave me, especially that after a long, hard day of work and that first couple you have, and it's kind of that, you start to feel better. And, but the thing is it wouldn't just be the two. It would be 6, 8, 10 drinks, something like that. And I'd need more and more. And eventually, like many of us, I needed it all the time. I started to feel bad. I started to feel sick when alcohol wasn't in my system. Eventually, it took over. And, then the consequences started getting worse. And now I know a lot of people that um, have problems with alcohol misuse disorder, whatever, that they don't have a lot of these consequences. For me, I started to have more and more. And what did I do to alleviate these consequences? That was isolate. I started to isolate. So I broke up the marriage. That broke up. That gave me more time to drink. And then I didn't have anybody to answer to. Of course, I still hid my alcohol. I mean, that's the insanity of this. I'm hiding it from myself. Who am I hiding it from? That, just silly things like that. And I didn't have any more legal problems, but had the job problems. Jobs started to get in the way. I quit my job. I'm good. I'm fine. Now I have all the freedom I want to do anything I want. I'm going to go do this, but I'm going to quit. I quit this job. I'm going to get this one because I'll make more money with less work. This is what I'm going to do. I never did that. I just kept drinking. I couldn't sober up enough to go get a job. That didn't happen. Started to plan my days. Okay, I got to be sober for this thing. All right, what am I going to do? How much can I drink in the morning so I can go do this in the afternoon and be sober? Things like that. I started to think everything started to revolve around alcohol. Do I have enough? Where am I going to get it? Am I going to an event where it's being served? Things like that. This is what happens with alcoholics. It starts to dominate our lives. It starts to dominate our thinking. This is what happened to me. Took me over, took over all of my thoughts, and it was horrible. It's so much work to do this, to stay, pleasantly drunk. I was not the blackout type drinker. I was the maintenance, I guess you could call it. I mean, whatever. Maintenance is, 20, 30 drinks a day. That was my maintenance. So, well, you could call it what you want, but that was, I did not get to the point of blacking out very often. It would happen. Things started to go south with my health. I had high blood pressure, pre-diabetic. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now. So I was a big round red face. It was pretty bad. But yeah, eventually I was able to get sober. I had some help from a good friend. I broke down and said I can't control my drinking. I don't know what made me do this, but I did it. And uh, that person helped me find a rehab to go to. And that's where I met Marcus. Went to the rehab. They sobered us up. It was an old school style rehab. It wasn't that fluffy type that you get that I hear about. I don't know if they are that way, but ours was you don't like it, we'll gladly refund your misery, and they just tell you what it's all about. It was AA orientated, so they did talk. There was meetings. I forgot. I don't know if it was every day, but it was most days. And so we were required to go to that. And they had lots of different classes and things. And they taught us about alcohol. We talk about how the problem with alcohol is we're chemically dependent, and that's one thing that they drove into us. And I did learn how to stay sober, and I did learn what I needed to do. However, the one thing is I may have learned all this, but when I got out, I didn't take it to heart. I didn't take that 2 foot drop to my heart. I had the knowledge, I didn't have the willingness to do it. And so I started drinking again. And I drank again, and then a few weeks later, I decided I was going to quit, but I wasn't going to pay for rehab again. So then I had a medical issue. This is why you have to go to a doctor if you're trying to quit drinking. Is I had the seizures. I was in an induced coma for a few weeks, and it was bad. It looked really bad. I was not waking up, and eventually, obviously, I did. And at that point is when I decided to do whatever I was going to do. And like I just said, and this is what I realized, alcohol, I am chemically dependent on alcohol. So I have to do whatever it's going to take to not drink. That's what I did. Now I went to AA, I went to the hospital recovery, I started to do other things in my life. It was hard because I was really sick. And coming out of a medical condition for a few weeks, it takes a while to recover. But I started to do things slowly. I also did it under a doctor's care. I got a physical a couple months after I got sober and found out some baselines as to where I was. I started to eat a little bit healthier. Really, I wasn't like trying to lose all the weight instantly or anything like that, but I was trying to do better, just a little bit at a time. I was patient. And that was another huge thing is, we spend all these years drinking and we want to get better right away. And that's what I wanted to do was get better right away. But I realized, and people told me, because I was hanging out with other sober alcoholics, they told me, be patient. You're going to get better. It will get better. And that's what I did was I was patient. And eventually I was able to, I was able to stay stopped. I'm coming up on 10 years now. But that's what I had to do was put my top priority was staying sober after I quit drinking. And it is still a priority in life. I have to stay sober. Now, in the beginning, and a lot of people struggle a lot more than I did, but in the beginning, there's the thoughts, there's the cravings, I don't know what to do. I'm not drinking and I'm bored. What do I do? Well, that's why I hung out with other sober alcoholics. We did things together, go bowling, go hiking, things that don't involve alcohol, starting to get active. And that's what I did, walking my dog. And you guys probably all know that I ride a bike, or maybe you don't, but I do a lot of cycling. That's one of the main things I do right now for my spare time. And, spend time with my wife, spend time with my family, go visit my family. My parents were in the last years of their lives when I got sober. So I went and I was of service. I went up there and helped them out whenever I could. And those are the types of things. And it was huge. And the satisfaction of sobriety and just knowing that I can go do anything I want except drink alcohol, it's huge. This is true freedom. I thought the freedom came from when the wife left me and I got to do whatever I want. I quit the job and I got to do whatever I want. I thought that I had the freedom then, but no, I was handcuffed by alcohol. It had hijacked my physical being, my brain, everything in my life. And now I'm able to do whatever I want. And now there's downsides to that too, because when things don't go right, it's usually my fault, and I still do make mistakes, and I still do have issues with other things in life. I think that's just part of life. But I do have the knowledge and the ability to do whatever I want, and that's the best thing about being sober. I'm able to be happy. I'm able to choose to be happy. I'm happy most of the time. It's kind of cool. So that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, and I think that's, let me get the thing over here. Where do we go? There we are. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, looking at different stories and different things that bring us to sobriety. For Terry and I, when we met in rehab, we were in different walks of life, different kind of mindset and things like that. But what was similar was the fact that we couldn't stop drinking. And it was interesting because I remember in our rehab, we went through AA all the time. I mean, it was all day, every day. AA all day, every day. That was the slogan. And it was interesting because I wanted to not be an AA person. I thought it was like a cult. I thought it was bad. I had all these opinions. But they did have some things that helped me get sober. Am I a 100% AA fanatic? No. I go maybe a couple times a year. However, I will say, in the beginning, it did help me get sober. Having the structure, going and talking about alcohol, dealing with stuff, being with other like-minded people, and realizing that I'm not alone in this, and also realizing that people were struggling with me. People were going through it. There were people that knew what I needed, but I was too stubborn to listen. And I was too prideful to listen. And I was too prideful to hear them out, because I knew everything. I was the king of the road, and I knew everything back before I got sober. And then, I had to be humbled when I was like, okay, everything you know and everything you've done put you in a mental hospital. Marcus, how you doing there? Right? And it was interesting, and it was difficult, because you have to realize, I don't know everything. I might think I do, but even if I am really, 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 really smart, I probably only know like 0.00001% of everything. And that's like if I'm a genius level. And is it possible that in that other 99.9999999 or whatever it is, that there's the answer to get sober, and it might not be from someone that I think is the person I would listen to? And going into rehab, I didn't want to listen to anyone because I thought I was better and smarter than them. However, there were people there with 20, 30, 17, many years of sobriety, and I had zero. So I had to listen, and I had to learn, and I had to realize that, I don't know everything. And I think, with Terry, it's like he went through all these things. He thought he had the answers, but chemical dependency wasn't in there. Nobody told us about that. Nobody sat down and told us about that until we got to rehab. And by sheer stroke of luck, we hit a rehab that was all about chemical dependency. And that's all they taught us over and over and over again. And like Avocado Man says, I notice many people go to AA and don't talk about alcoholism. They talk about their other problems. Well, and there's a reason for that. Once we're done with chemical dependency, all of it is our other problems. That's why we have our course over at talksober.com, because a lot of this is mental issues, right? What's going to happen is your brain is going to tell you that there are answers in the bottle. It can say, hey, you could feel better here, you could do this. What we need to do is we need to strengthen up our defense against that first drink. Because if you have no defense against that first drink, you're going to lose. Like with Terry, when he got out of rehab, and he went back out and drank. Why? Because he didn't have enough defense against that first drink. Now, what is defense against the first drink? Well, I believe, and Terry can weigh in on this, I believe that it is the ability to know what chemical dependency does, that it does not help, and that any drink, any bit of the chemical will throw you back into chemical dependency and tweak your mind enough to where you might not be able to see your way out. That, to me, is defense against the first drink. What do you think about that, Terry? Tell us about that.
You're right. That's it. For what I see, and for me, I think there was that thought in the back of my mind, and I think a lot of people have this, that they can do just a couple drinks. And that's what I hear from a lot of people that do relapse, is that, yeah, I could just do a couple and then I can stop again. And we have to convince ourselves that, if we were having problems before, if we kept drinking and we were having these negative consequences, whether they were obvious or not so obvious, we were chemically dependent. And if you're chemically dependent, it's not going to get cured after not drinking for a while. You're still going to be chemically dependent, and that first drink is going to trigger your brain to obsessing over it more and more, and you're going to lose. It's not something that you can willpower through, and that's kind of my experience as well. And that's what happened with me. Is I thought I could have a couple of drinks and feel good, but all of a sudden it was like, wow, this is, it wasn't conscious. I wasn't like thinking, wow, this is great. It was like, I need more, and I'm going to go get it. And that's what happened with me, and I couldn't stop until I was kind of forced to, medically, relationshiply, and just I had to. And I think that's one of the biggest things there, is that we think we can get away with it.
Yeah.
We can't. It just doesn't work.
Absolutely. And I think that's really what we got to look at, is the fact that, alcoholism is in your mind, and it's also chemical dependency. And it's in your mind long after the chemical is gone. Like, I still have times where, if I get really tired or really messed up mentally, the first thought or the second thought pops into your head of, hey, drinking could be an option. Why? Because it was an option. It did work until it didn't work. And then once it starts not working, I don't think it'll ever work again, nor do I want to find out. And so looking at that and understanding, okay, my defense, I need to work out all the muscles to not have the first drink. It's like when you go to the gym, right? You work out your stomach so you can get rock hard abs. If you do that, you're not going to be working out your bicep. And maybe your bicep is the thing that gets you sober, or whatever it is, right? This is metaphorically speaking. But if you're working out the wrong muscles, maybe you're going to therapy, which is great. It's excellent to go to therapy. Maybe you're working on your issues, which is great. You should work on your issues. But I think in the beginning of sobriety, it should be all about not drinking. Obsess about it. Hey, I'm not going to drink. No matter what, even if my ass falls off, I'm not going to drink. And that kept me sober, saying that over and over again, realizing what would happen if I drank, understanding chemical dependency, realizing that alcohol was the only problem with my alcoholism, right? It's like, okay, you might have other stuff. It's like earlier this year, my mom was in the hospital, and she had several different things, and they were like, well, this is the important one you need to take care of now. And it's kind of like, okay, the other stuff, you might have, blood sugar or whatever, but this one is going to take you out. Alcohol will take you out unless you take it out. That's what's going to take me out, right? Unless I do something stop drinking it, that's it. Now I can have all these other things, problems with family, problems with this, upbringing, whatever. But if I have those and alcoholism, alcoholism is going to win. That's why you have all these problems from alcohol, right? It's not this and, it's alcohol exacerbating everything. And I remember when I got sober out of rehab, I thought I was going to have to like mountain up with therapy. I got to fix all these problems. No, I need to fix the drinking because that was the biggest one. And then when I fixed the drinking, I found out those other problems weren't as big as I thought they were. Just kind of fell by the wayside, and I didn't really do much of anything about them. All I did was, I'm going to stay sober. And over time, it magically got easier, and things started working themselves out. Sure, there were some rough times, and some good times, and some bad times, but it wasn't like when I drank, because that just made everything more hectic and more crazy. The bad times were really bad. The good times seemed really good, but they were really drunken times. They weren't that good. And so I was living in a world of make-believe created by alcohol. And if you continue living in that world, it's going to be make-believe. It's not going to be reality. We need to get out and come to reality.
Yeah, you had that. You were kind of living in that world of fear, the fear that the bad times were going to come.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's, for me at least, it's about the acceptance that bad times, bad things are going to happen in life, but they don't have to destroy everything. I can work through these issues that are going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I've accepted the fact that things do happen in life. That's life. That's how it goes. That helps.
Absolutely. So I hope you guys liked our AA style talk. A lot of people commenting in there. But yeah, hopefully you like this. If you want more of these, let us know in the comments and in the chat box. And we're here to help you get and stay sober. Also, check out talksober.com. You can go there, click the big yellow button, support the show, and sign up for all of our MP3s, MP4s, PDFs, and all kinds of stuff to help you get and stay sober. It's like a 30-day workshop kind of thing. It is not meant to replace Detox or Rehab. We are not doctors. What we do is we talk about the mental stuff that we went through to help us not have that first drink. And I believe if you can do that, after you get detoxed and everything like that, I think you have a better shot of getting and staying sober. So, check it out over at talksober.com. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks,
everyone. Have a good one.